Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Imperial Scholars Podcast. My name is Mitch, my co-host is the Rad Dude, and in today's episode, Rad, I haven't told you about today's episode yet, but we are going to be doing another multi-parter series, and I decided that today we'd cover the lineage and legacy of KARAK 8 Peaks.
Ooh, nice. KARAK 8 Peaks. I was wondering if we were going to do some Dowie stuff.
Yeah, I feel like KARAK 8 Peaks doesn't really get enough coverage, to be honest, which is kind of weird because it's a really major part of the whole Warhammer fantasy, actually. And it's another emphasis on why everything at the end of the day is Malekith's fault.
I mean, yeah, and if you think about it, it's actually like a pretty big story that revolves especially three big characters of three big races.
Oh,
Dwarves,
like
Greenskins, and
5,
Skaven.
actually.
Oh, 5? What the hell are the two? Actually, you'll tell me.
Well, yeah, you'll get the whole rundown, because the thing is that you think, in your head, I know what you're thinking. You're going, oh, we got the three major factions that are fighting for KARAK 8 Peaks. But there's also an aspect that is like, what is the predecessing incident that leads to KARAK 8 Peaks becoming the war zone that it becomes?
Okay. I'm intrigued because I know like somewhat about the war and like especially with the quote unquote main characters or the main players, but not really too much about like what could have led to it, except the main cataclysm that happens really.
Right. And that's sort of this thing is like, this is going to be a multi-parter, so this episode is going to cover like the very roots of it that we don't really think about too much.
Okay, cool.
So,
and honestly, like it's pretty good since we're talking about Dowie stuff because I got myself a nice Jack and Coke right here.
Oh, I should go grab a beer then. Damn it.
Well, hey, you're the one that decided to do this.
That is true. I'll go grab that after. All right, so KARAK 8 Peaks. The thing is that we have to throw KARAK 8 Peaks out the window right off the bat. We got to focus first off on the inciting incident, which was actually something that's been covered in the past already on this channel, being the War of Vengeance or War of the Beard.
Of course, because everything is, what was his name again? Like Caldor II?
Calidor, yeah, good old Calidor II, the Phoenix King of no one remembers. Don't worry about it. Not important.
You mean the absolute spoiled brat prick that shaved dwarven beards?
Yes, exactly. Yes, we don't need to talk about him. It's very all forgotten. And ironically, it's like once again it comes down to that Mong and Malekith being kind of a dick.
I mean, that is true, but if you think about it, like, who really... Well, I guess Malekith and Marathi caused more damage in the world than Caldor II did, but Caldor II is like a close contender, if you think about it.
Well, wait till I get to where I'm getting, because the thing is that Malekith will come up again. So, with
when the hell does he not? When the hell does he not?
Well, exactly. So with the War of Vengeance occurring and basically completely decimating the relation of the dwarfs and the High Elves eventually had to flee. Both of them dealt with horrific casualties, catastrophic casualties. Both were on the brink of pretty much, well, they weren't able to enforce their realms anymore because they had their own issues beyond fighting each other, right? I have to remind you that at this point, the dwarves have actually managed to keep the greenskins at bay to the point that it's like they're just kind of a pest they have to deal with. The Skaven are pretty much have not been discovered and established as like a primary threat at this point. This was still a pretty golden era for the dwarfs even after the War of the Beard. But the thing was that Malekith being Malekith, once he did all that and then established his kingdom of Nagorond, he went to go and try to take Ulthuan once again with the High Elves weakened. It did not work. He had to retreat his units and his armies and retreat back to Nagorond and regroup. With that in mind, he realized, well, shit, I can't really go around fighting the High Elves anymore. I've already lost, but I do need to keep my economy of psychotic, bloodthirsty Druki happy, or else I'm going to become their next meal and they're probably going to try to usurp me. So his solution was to... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it makes sense because the first time, I mean, again, he already had like one go at Ulthuan the first time around. Of course, that was like the High Elves at their peak before, so it makes sense that maybe he lost. But the second time, that is pretty damn embarrassing if you think about it.
It's really sad, and I don't know how he loses a second time, especially considering there's a brand new Phoenix King that doesn't really know what he's doing. And by whatever means, somehow manages to win. It's kind of a MacGuffin, I'm not going to lie. But, whatever. We'll accept it for what it is.
It's kind of like the saying, like China reformed again, then broke again. It's like Malekith tries to take Oath One, then he like splats his face on the wall.
Pretty much, yeah. The thing of being like the endless lineage. It's like, well, Um,
You're not doing the heir of Venerian justice, Malekith.
no, not really. Not when you're losing to an army that's already pretty much halfway devastated off the map. An army, a faction that has literally lost already, and you can't even beat them. That's pretty sad, bro.
Yeah.
So his solution is going, well, shit. Okay, we still gotta be keeping the economy flowing. We need spoils of war of some type, and there's nothing but barren wasteland out here. So the best we can do is be ensnaring Norskins. So instead, he decided, well, if I go down south, there's a bunch of lizardmen temples that are pretty much just filled with all manner of gold and treasure and loot that we can just start taking. The weird thing is that I don't entirely, I guess the Dark Elves have their own economy going on, so it sort of makes sense that they would go down there for gold. Like, the Dark Elves at no point are like traders to the best of my understanding, so it's a little weird that that's their thing, especially since they can't enslave the lizardmen. But whatever, they're going down there and they're fighting off the lizardmen and trying to take their temple cities and just performing random raids.
Well, I would say good fucking luck because I doubt you can really enslave a lizardman because they're like hardwired automatons, really.
That's what I mean. They're not getting any labor force from this, so I guess realistically they're just going down there for gold and trading power with, I guess, Norskins and other Druki. I don't really know. Anyways,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess it would make sense. They do have some trades going on with they gotta have something on with the Norskins. But anyways, so they go down there and they start raiding the lizardmen, trying to take their temple cities, trying to take all the good loot and gold that's in there. And, for the most part, it's actually surprisingly going well enough for them, mostly because they just went down there and they started raiding, and the lizardmen really were not well equipped for a sudden random attack from the Druki. And this went on for quite a while, actually, that eventually the lizardmen were just getting really, really fed up with the whole thing. And the Slan, as we've prior established, are not the most active of toads. They're more often than not just hanging out in their star chambers and contemplating the will of the old ones. And every now and then they get a pat on the shoulder by a skink saying, "Hey, there's invaders. We need you to do something." This is where our good friend Lord Mazdamundi comes into play.
Yeah, if I recall, before I continue, I recall like Slan are so like ancient and they're like that to them, they're so like focused on trying to like contemplate the will of the old ones or try to figure out that I think like a few hundred years is like the equivalent of like 10 seconds to them.
Pretty much, like yeah, because they get really pissed off if they get told, "Hey, by the way, there's invaders going on." It's like you're distracting me. You just poked me on the shoulder, and it's been like 500 years.
In fact, I think that's like a story with Mazdamundi with his temple with like it was not Dark Elves, but I think it was like some people from Estalia, kind of like the conquistadors or whatever, keep coming by, and it's like, okay, well, fuck. Well, how about I go deal with them so you can shut the fuck up?
Well, that was the tribe of Skegi. Like that was a Norscan tribe of the Skegi, which is even like the faction you face in Total War 2.
Oh, I thought that was like the New World colonies next to them, but okay.
No, it was a bunch of just random Norskins that were coming over, and yeah, they fought them off like 3 or 4 times until eventually Mazdamundi's like, "For fuck's sakes, I will wipe them off the map then." And that's exactly what he did. This time, Mazdamundi is like, "Well, the Dark Elves keep coming at us, and I can't really deal with the entirety of the Dark Elves. It's going to take too long and just be too much of a, it's just steal too much of my time. So I have a better idea. I'm going to build a big-ass wall out of the ground." And he decides to just use his insane magical abilities and just summon a mountain.
Dope.
Nice. Yes. Bro just decides to summon a mountain range and divide the lands of the Dark Elves and the Lizardmen of Lustria. The thing is that if you know anything about seismic activity, summoning a mountain out of the ground is going to have some pretty severe effects on the overall seismic activity of the world, especially in the span of a second or a few minutes.
Oh, now I see where this is going. I know where you're going with this here.
Mm-hmm. And this is exactly why on the other end of the world, where the, dwarfs were recovering from the War of Vengeance, all of a sudden, their entire mountain range started shaking, and a good majority of their mountain underways just crashed in on themselves, cutting off a lot of trade routes and a lot of connection points to the Dowry Empire.
Huh, that's weird because I actually heard that after the War of Vengeance, the Dawi experienced like catastrophic earthquakes or shifting of mountains because apparently Mazdamuni the Slime realized, oh, hang on a second, there's a few tectonic plates out of the way. Let me fix that per what the old ones claimed. Just decided to like fuck around with it.
I mean, it could have very well have been both. I don't know. Maybe he was like, "Oh, the dark elves are here, and the tectonic plates are out of shift. Let me just fuse these."
Either
Regardless,
way, yeah, either way, it's like, well, damn. One, it tells
regard
you the power of Mazdamuni and be like, well, shit.
which has brought one of my favorite memes ever, where of the dwarfs going, "You took everything from us," and Mazda Mundi going, "I don't even know who you are."
Yep, sounds about right.
Shout out to Avengers Endgame there.
Hmm.
Um, so anyways, mountains collapse in on themselves and the underways are pretty much completely thrashed. The Dwarven Empire is crippled even further from what was already a pretty tough time for them. And on top of this, well, the thing was there were still greenskins living amongst that area. With the sudden shifting of everything, there was a lot of volcanic eruptions that started taking place, and this caused the greenskins to suddenly start migrating east towards the Dowie Mountains, towards the Karaz Angkor.
I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense with all those earthquakes. There's a bunch of like fractures or openings to happen that would normally have kept such vermin out.
Exactly. And so basically it was a thing of like you went and you kicked the hornet's nest and all of a sudden all of them just came flooding out at you.
I bet this is exactly like from Lord of the Rings with the goblin attacking down the mines, except like they just bust the door, or the door was already busted down.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. It's like there was no need for them to drop that bucket into the well. They were already well on their way. So, yeah, unfortunately, it just leads to even further catastrophe for the Dowie. And now all of a sudden they have to deal with a massive onslaught of a greenskin wog, of just a collective wog of basically all of them at once. And right at this moment as well, also the Skaven decided to suddenly erupt out of the ground and start getting into the fray.
Oh, goody.
Yeah. And the Skaven obviously were just kind of looking at it going like, "Oh, look, free real estate. The ultimate opportunist strikes again. Here comes Edge with a spear." Like, that was basically all it came down to.
Was there any specific clan, or was it like all of them attacking from multiple points, really?
I think at this time it was just a lot of them. No one in particular. I don't think there was really a
Yeah.
prominent clan that was leading the fray per se. It was probably a good I mean, there's numerous clans, so hard to say.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and it's still pretty early in the Skaven history, I'm guessing.
Well, yes, like I said, the Skaven prior to this were not even really discovered by the dwarfs, which, if anyone would discover it, it'd be them, right? I mean, they're both underground.
True, true, yeah.
So, yeah, the Skaven decide, okay, now's the ultimate time for us to come out and just start taking shit. So they come out, and at this time, like, you need to remember that the technology of all of these factions is pretty much in its earliest stages. Like, the dwarfs at this point, I think to the best of my knowledge, they've got maybe some cannons and the grudge throwers, but that's really about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think the last time you talked about the War of Vengeance, you mentioned like it's still crossbows and catapults and maybe some guns, and probably the best being like few organ guns based on our Sigmar episode.
Yeah, maybe organ guns, but I don't think so at this point. I think at this point, gunpowder was still very new to them. I think it was
Not even
being
like
used mostly
flamethrowers,
for cannons.
not even like flamethrowers or the C4 like stuff that the Ironbreakers throw.
Well, it's bizarre because, yeah, they still had iron breakers and they had C4 and all of this stuff, but for whatever reason, a lot of their technology was still in its either, I don't even know if it was even in development.
Hmm.
It's
But again,
very
the
weird
point
with
is
the
that
timeline.
despite being a golden age, it's not exactly the same technological age as the present age Warhammer Fantasy setting.
Precisely, right? And
Hmm.
so at this point, it was mostly just a battle of attrition, which obviously, I mean, the dwarves had the advantage and the advantage of having armor, but beyond that, that was basically all they had going on. They definitely did not have the numbers game versus a massive wog of every greenskin and a united faction of a handful of Skaven clans at the very least.
And plus, it makes sense because I'm sure they already dealt with bullshit like this before when their mounds were actually intact. But when all of a sudden your house gets about like, I don't know, 20 goddamn man-sized holes in it, you're gonna deal with a bunch of bullshit coming right, whether it's bugs, people just wandering in or whatever.
Exactly, exactly. So it was not fun in any regard. And at this point, it wasn't even fun for any faction, really. It was actually pretty much a stalwart for a lot of them. Eventually, with things, moving on, and because this was going on for generations with this war, and just all the factions just trying to take all that they could. By and large, it became this situation of the dwarfs taking the middle ground, the Skaven taking the lowest underways that basically only the Skaven could fit in because they're rats. They can scurry around and fit into small crevices and whatnot. And the Greenskins basically taking the upper echelon of the surface area.
Of wait, which hole? Just generally around or what?
Yes, just generally around. That was how it was
Okay,
operating. In particular,
gotcha.
though, it's important to note here, KARAK 8 Peaks was such a magnificent kingdom that it did almost come into par with KARAK.
I did hear about that, how it was like the second biggest or second most prominent hold behind purely like Karazakarak.
The thing was just like KARAK had these monstrous gates and its defenses were par none. Nothing was getting in there. Nothing was going to be able to break down the walls. Nothing could siege it. KARAK 8 Peaks, while had a great deal of grandeur, was not nearly as well defended and well constructed for sieging.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think even if I recall, like the War of Vengeance, like the elves tried to like pierce the gates with like dragons, artillery, magic, whatever, and they could not. They could barely dent the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just a situation of it wasn't going to happen with KARAK, but there was potential for, advantage for dealing with KARAK 8 Peaks. So the war kept going on, and the Skaven took the underway, dwarves were in the center, orcs up top. Eventually, the dwarves decided that, well, they were working on enough stuff, just experimenting with their technology. They started making great advancements where the other two were not. They started developing better usage of gunpowder. They started developing usage of flamethrowers, with what are they called? You know the ones I'm talking about, the guys with the
Iron,
flamethrowers.
Iron Drakes.
Iron Drakes, yes, Iron Drakes. Like that started becoming a prominent usage, and at this point, just because, well, it was literally that they were discovering ways of creating equipment that could take out swaths of enemies against armies that were just made out of hordes of, endless greens and fur. Eventually, it just became this thing that, well, okay, looks like we're getting the upper hand with this. We can actually take full advantage of this, and we might be able to take back our home. And the Greenskins and the Skaven were thinking the same thing. It's like, shit, they're getting the upper hand here. We don't have anything to deal with this. Like, we've thrown everything we have. We have our rat ogres. That's it. We have rat ogres. We have trolls. And that's all we got to fight them with beyond, just standard Skaven and standard orcs.
All right, interesting.
So,
They actually managed to hold on so much and almost push them back.
yeah.
Almost, I'm guessing.
Keyword there is almost. They were pushing them back. But eventually the Skaven, through their, craven cunning and all this stuff, was somehow able to actually convince the Greenskins, hey guys, we're not winning this unless we collaborate and work together. And
It's actually not that bad of a thing. Like, have you ever played the first Dawn of War before?
no, I've not actually.
Okay, well, I guess a shtick in that one, or especially like in the lore, is like with greenskins, they're pretty easy to convince to fight someone else as long as you say like, "Oh yeah, those guys are way stronger than me," so good, so that'll be a great fight for you.
Yeah, that is true. It's just a bit weird that it's like this faction that they've been warring with for generations, they would listen to, in my mind. But, I mean, listen, maybe they bribed them, maybe they used something, I have no idea. But they managed to convince them one way or another to be like, guys, we got to stop fighting each other. We need to make this a 2v1 instead of a free-for-all.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not surprised me with greenskins knowing like what I read about them in both fantasy and in 40K. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. And, once again, this started to work. It was too much for even the advancing technology of the dwarves, where they were like, holy shit. Things have doubled in numbers, and we don't have a way of dealing with this insanity. Like, suddenly the vacuum is no longer able to deal with the mess, and the mess is just flowing over you in dust.
Like imagine like you're already dealing with like I don't know cockroaches and ants, and they decide to like double team and just attack you and pincer attack you at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. The ants and the cockroaches have literally decided to attack you and are coming at you from both ends now, and basically pulling an Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you're out of pest control, or like what was it called, raid? That's
Yeah,
what it
exactly.
was.
You've only got one bottle. That's it. It's like, fuck, this is not good. And so they started to push the dwarfs back, and it was like, well, okay, we're right back to where we were. Skaven, though, being as intelligent as they are, cunning and cowardly as they are, they also started to develop their own technology. And I'm pretty sure it was because they were stealing it mostly from the dwarfs, if I'm being honest. But, they started to like look at dwarven technology and go, let's amp this shit up to 11. Let's just make this as unstable and uncontrollable and insanely toxic as we can. And so while the dwarves were like working with napalm and gunpowder, the Skaven were just being like, you know what, poison gas, let's go. Let's amp that up. Let's start fusing this shit into our rad ogres. Let's start getting warp fire throwers. Let's start doing all this crazy shit.
Oh, so that's where some of those weapon teams first started
Yep,
out.
it was because they were like, we're just researching and just stealing the bioptics stuff off bioptics. They were stealing the blueprints off the dwarfs.
Actually, that is not. That's very interesting, and it's not too far off of Skaven. Have you read like the first omnibus of Gotrek and Felix?
I've not, no.
Okay, well, I won't spoil too much of you, but like one of the books involves like Skaven trying to like take over the city of Nuln. Like, I'm not going to spoil too much, but there was like one engineer that broke into like the Empire College of Engineering, saw a steam tank, and was like, "Ooh, this is going to be good," and just decided to like hog ride the damn thing all over and break shit down.
Yeah, that figures. Pretty standard stuff for Skaven, I guess. Be like, just try it out and just see if it works, you know?
And then like if he succeeded, he probably would like maybe stolen it or at least stole the blueprints and make his own like conundrum or make his own shit.
Well, that's the funny thing, too, you gotta think about it being like, well, the standard, like, warp fire thrower team. I'm assuming every single one of those weapons is somehow uniquely designed to the point that being like, that one works perfectly fine, that one is not going to work and just explodes on impact, Like, you never know.
Well, I mean, with the Skaven, like exploring the thing kind of works better for you because that just means more opportunity to like either promote yourself or to get rid of possible rivals.
Right, exactly. And actually, at this point, like I was talking a bit about, the rat ogres. They were doing some stuff now to try to mutate the rat ogres further and try to like enhance them for the frontal charge. So,
Mhm.
at this point, it was looking like, I mean, and also like poison wind globadiers. Like, I don't even know. Like that right there. I mean, they destroy units in Total War. So I mean, it makes perfect sense.
And probably like maybe even those driller guys, the warp drill team or whatever it's called too.
Yep, those dudes as well. So they were just taking the Geneva Convention and just wiping their ass with it. It's like, who cares? Go for it.
Who the fuck even follows the Geneva Convention in Warhammer? Let's be serious.
I listen. I'm sure if the nah, you're right. Probably not.
Geneva Convention, more like Geneva Suggestion.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Skaven are taking full advantage of this, and their technology is getting them the upper hand. And now it's a thing of being like, well, the Skaven are pretty much taking the city. They just they pretty much backstab the orcs. They go, yep, we're back to our own devices now, and we're gonna start taking stuff. This is ours now.
And water is wet. Who could have seen that coming?
Exactly. It's a tale as old as time. Skaven using brutal cunning tactics to overtake orcs and dwarfs? No. What? Never. So, with this in mind, KARAK 8 Peaks looking pretty dour. This has been going on for generations, mind you, right? Where we're getting up from like king to king to king to king to king. The
Hmm.
current king at this time, a gentleman by the name of King Lun Ironhammer.
Ooh, I actually know that guy, but continue.
Yeah, and King Lun Ironhammer was really at a really unfortunate place of realizing how dire the situation was, and he made the most sacrificial thing or a sacramental thing you can do as a dwarf. He was like, we are going to leave our home. We are going to barricade the mines and the sacred grounds of our ancestors so that the Skaven and the Greenskins cannot get at them. And we are basically going to cut off any way for us to get overwhelmed by Skaven here on out, or from Greenskins to like further enhance themselves. We're going to just barricade it and block it off, and we're going to dig our way out of here and leave our home.
That must be a really tough cookie or a tough pill to swallow.
I can't imagine a worse, like, I don't know how popular this dude was with his people afterwards. There's not much written about it to the best of my knowledge, but I can't imagine. It's amazing to me that he wasn't mutinied upon with that suggestion, to be honest. But shit must have been real rough for them to listen.
This is also sounding a lot like with the Lonely Mountain from the Hobbit movie, from the Hobbit story as well.
Yeah, I mean, Warhammer ripping off Tolkien? No.
No. I mean, you could say that about almost any modern fantasy thing nowadays. Nah.
Yeah. That's valid. Yeah, that's true also. But, Warhammer in particular is pretty subtle. It's about as subtle as a Warhammer. So, anyways, they pick up their shit and leave. They dig a new route out, and I don't really know where they flee to, but I imagine they just scattered, to be honest, to whatever other dwarf hold that would take them, right? But
damn! Imagine like going to some dwarven hole asking for help, and they're like, "No, we got our own problems to deal with. Fuck off."
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that like, well, in Total War, it's this thing being like you retake the capital, right? You go and retake KARAK 8 Peaks and you start in like KARAK Izor, I think is the name of it. It's not really specified, I don't think, where they fled to, but it was this thing that one day we will return and we will take it. But the Skaven at this point take KARAK 8 Peaks and dub it as the City of Pillars, right? This is ours now. And so they pretty much have the middle ground, the lower ground, and the upper ground, I'm pretty sure, still belong to the orcs at this point.
Okay.
And so it basically, for a while, there becomes a battle between the Skaven and the orcs and the goblins, which I think this is where we get to what is called the Goblin Wars, which is basically just this endless battle going on between these two factions, right? Because even though it's like, well, the Skaven had all this great technology, how could they manage to not wipe out the orcs? It's still the fucking orcs and the goblins and all the crazy stuff they get, and they're not going to stop. It's like, oh, we're taking casualties? Great, let's bring in more. The guys want to fight. The boys need WOG.
Plus, I think the greenskins, orcs and goblins, were produced even faster than the Skaven, which is a huge fucking feat when you think about it.
Even if they weren't producing as fast, you gotta think about the fact that orcs are about 6'8" Neanderthal looking dudes. And, the fucking Skaven are like 4 feet and weigh about 50 pounds.
And again, I am for the orcs, but after all, Skaven have guns.
They do have guns, yes.
You may be Bigfoot muscle, but I have a gun.
You might have a brain, but I have a gun. And also, I mean, well, think about it, being like, oh, they have a gun. Well, we got drugged up goblins in catapults that we're just going to throw at you with spiked Kaiser helms. Well, that works like, too, I guess.
That or it's like, you may have guns, but I have more men than you have bullets.
Yes, exactly. It's a real, we all know the reference that we're thinking of here. So, I mean, I'm not going to, I don't be specific, but it's looking a bit ugly. Anyways, so that goes on for way, way too long, where these two factions are just bloodthirstily fighting for control and dominance of KARAK 8 Peaks just for the hell of it. Not even for a thing of being like, it doesn't gain them much foothold, really. They just want it for bragging rights, to the best of my understanding.
I mean, yeah, someone wants to dub themselves like king or warlord or whatever of this big ass mountain hold, so yeah.
Well, this is sort of before that, right? So eventually, a bunch of battles are fought with the dwarves trying to retake their mountain home, and generations pass of them trying to retake it. Until we get to, air quotes, modern times with Warhammer and the dwarves, where King Belegar Ironhammer of the lineage of King Lun decides to try and retake his ancestral home, and he does do it more successfully than his predecessors. He manages to retake the sort of central area of KARAK 8 Peaks. He manages to get back the center area where they were before.
Okay, very nice. He has like a very great first step, and has done some good progress from the sound of it.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good start for his battles. He's got a pretty good start for his campaign to retake the ancestral home. Mind you, though, they basically went from, well, we were at 0, we went to -1, and now we're back at 0.
I mean, hey, if you think about it, the dwarves are already used to like keeping their mountain holds and just like staying within it, but to take it back is that's a pretty a different ball game if you think about it.
It is a feat. It is no doubt a feat against, Skaven and orcs, and to actually have something of a stabilized version of your home back, like from that faction, is no small feat. So I'm not going to undermine Belagar in any manner. He is a badass, angry little dude, and his pedigree shows it. Now, this brings us closer towards like the more modern times that we might be thinking of for the battle for KARAK 8 Peaks. Because at this time, well, we've kind of covered it. Like, we've got the three main factions that are fighting. And it's kind of like, well, what now? Like, we've got sort of Belagar just fighting off the orcs and the Skaven. But the orcs and the Skaven get their own lead generals at this point by just sheer luck. This is where, just by sheer timeline-wise, these three factions manage to come into play. Because eventually we get Skarsnik, the Night Goblin warlord of the Crooked Moon tribe, and Skarsnik will be getting his own episode in the future.
Okay, awesome.
He'll get his own thing, because he gets his own book, and it's actually really fun. I've read it. I'll have to reread it, but it's real good stuff. And Skarsnik very quickly becomes just the leader of the Crooked Moon tribe, and is so efficient in fighting off the Skaven and the Dwarfs, and just putting them in the ground, that other war bands start to follow under him. Other orc bosses start to actually go, yeah, I want to fight underneath Skarsnik, a night goblin, which is pretty much like not heard of beyond Grom the Paunch, who's basically the size of an orc anyways.
I was gonna say that's pretty a big fucking deal because Skarsnik is almost like the smallest of goblins ever to exist, and Grom the Paunch at least had size and girth on his for why people followed him.
But the sheer cunning, and also it's like prophesized that like he is a seer or a chosen of Gork and Mork, good old Skarsnik. So in that regard, there's a lot of reasons why the guys are kind of following under him, but just his sheer brutal cunning. Also, he's got a really devoted. This isn't a character that gets like covered enough, to be honest, with Skarsnik. I'm amazed he's not like a legendary character. He has a shaman with him who is with him pretty much the entirety of his story and lineage, and the shaman really helps to inflate his ego, but also just to lead him and to just give him a successful campaign.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to be talking about Gobla being like another ace in his ace under his sleeve.
Well, that's a prominent character that everyone I think who knows Skarsnik knows about. But there's another goblin that will get his own coverage with the Skarsnik part that basically is just there as Skarsnik's right-hand man.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, he'll get his own
thing. It's kind of like Grom's personal shaman back in his time. I forget his name, unfortunately, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Same as that, right? His like flag holder dude.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So at this point, Skarsnik begins leading the fight and is recognized by the goblins and the greenskins as King of the Eight Peaks. On the dwarven side, we have Belagar, who is recognized by the dwarfs as King of the Eight Peaks. And in the subterranean, in the deepest, darkest holes, in the breeding pits of Clan Moors, a large litter of Blackford Skaven are born, and amongst them, one of the Skaven devours the rest of his litter and is adopted by the war master of Clan Moors, Clan Nodwell, and this is none other than Queek Headtaker.
Yeah, I knew he was going to be a contender as well. These are the three main characters of this whole, three-way battle.
Yeah,
war, I should say.
The three names are here. The gang's all here. And Queek will also get his own episode, obviously. He gets his own book. Queek is... I don't think people realize quite how insanely OP Queek is. And he has a really good story, to be honest. Like, which is kind of funny for a mentally just cracked Skaven, like a borderline schizophrenic Skaven. I don't even know if it's borderline. Queek actually is quite an interesting character, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of his, and he has some cool shit that he does.
So our contenders being the son of a dwarven king wanting to retake his home, like pretty standard stuff. Yep. Then we have the green Sun Tzu of the fucking Warhammer world, based on what I heard about him. And then probably the most unscaven Skaven ever to come be birthed into this world.
Yeah, we have a Skaven that leads from the front lines, which in and of itself is the ultimate oxymoron.
Does that did I pretty much summarize all those guys?
Pretty
Okay.
much, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. And I do like the prospect of like the legendary lineage of King Lun and two other dudes.
Mm-hmm. So are we going to continue about Belagar's story in this episode?
Belagar's story, well, this is well, that's really like the most of like what I had to cover with this of being like this was the opening episode that I had, right? And then every other character.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay, sorry.
with Belagar, the thing is that I don't have too much to add to his character, to be honest. His character is more delved in the end times, and in particular the book Thorgrim. Because Belagar's main thing is basically that the entire time Thorgrim is being like, take back your homeland, you schmuck. I don't like that you've allowed the orcs to stay here, even though you've literally retaken the kingdom. Then Belagar also at this time has a wife and child, and he's trying to rebuild the lineage of King Lun and the the Iron Hammer lineage.
Yeah, I do know. When it comes to Belagar's whole mission, if I recall, I think like Thorgrim is almost like a pretty big backer, like militarily and financially to him. I
He
think.
is, yes, yeah, 100%. But it's a thing being like at the same time, it's dwarven economics, dwarven grudging. That for all of this stuff that he has to request of Thorgrim, he's expected to pay it back tenfold.
Yeah, of course. I
Of
mean, he is the
course,
High
yeah.
King after all. So, yeah.
It's really shitty for Belagar's sake. This is one of the reasons I think I like Belagar as much as I do, is because he is the ultimate underdog, and his entire story is just taking shit from Thorgrim, while also just having the ultimate shame of having to retake the legendary homeland of KARAK 8 Peaks and his lineage. It's
I
fun.
mean, and it's probably the fact that it's like KARAK 8 Peaks itself, rather than like random KARAK in, I don't know, the fucking Great Mountains or whatever. Like, it was
Mhm.
the second biggest like hold in the entire Karaz Encore from the sound of it.
Right, exactly. And like I said, the main thing for Belagar is kind of towards the end of the end time stuff, right? Where they cover his story.
Like
Beyond that, it's him
this is
just,
literally a dwarven crusade to take back the like one of the other homelands that they lost.
yep, pretty much. That's the entirety of Belagar's story for you. And like I said, the other characters, like Skarsnik will get his own coverage of like his book, and so will Creek. I'll be honest, like I realize this is a shorter episode, but I think this is really everything I have to go off of right now. And then we will cover the other guys sometime in the future, unless you have more questions for me.
I guess my main question is like you mentioned the quote unquote five factions. Like obviously we have the dwarves, greenskins, and skavens being the main three, and I'm guessing the dark elves and lizardmen were kind of the people like on the side that accidentally made this become a thing.
I was thinking dark elves and high elves, to be honest, but also I guess yes, actually it was closer to six factions actually, if you include the lizard men being like, we're just gonna spawn a mountain and just fuck your shit up with seismic catastrophes.
And okay, and you said this was after the War of Vengeance. So I'm guessing this was like, or this whole thing started like before Sigmar's rise to power, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So like humans were pretty much still cavemen, unga bunga
What?
people at the moment.
Sorry. Um, you know what? I actually don't. Oh fuck! This is where it gets confusing because I
Oh wait,
don't know
actually,
when Karak
but you
Eight
said
Peaks
that.
fell.
But hang on, but you said the Skaven came to play, and there was, of course, like that's when the what's it called, fucking, the city where Skavenblight currently is, had to have fallen at that point, which is like several hundred years after Sigmar, I think.
The city that Skaven are in, and the Dwarf Empire. Which city are you talking about?
You don't know like how the Skaven came to be?
Oh yes, yeah, in like Telia, yeah,
Yeah, Tilly, I think it was like something Kvasir or whatever it was called.
yeah.
The epic poem, which is actually really damn good, and it's an awesome thing that I'm gonna tell. Like, if I have kids, that's gonna be one of the scary stories I tell them at night.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know the exact timeline between all that because this is where it gets confusing because Thorgrim funded for Belagar to like retake take back Karak 8 Peaks.
Right.
But
So the fact that it's Thorgrim means that was after like the Great War of Chaos in Kislev, like after the what was his name? The Mr. Emperor guy that reunited the Empire after the reign of three emperors and all that.
Reign of Three Emperors.
Magnus the Pious, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Because Thorgrim came to power after that High King during that war died of old age and had no heirs.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing was that Sigmar was also friends with the High King of his time, right?
Yeah, but that was like before the Great War against Chaos, like against Asvar Kul. That was like, fuck. Let's see, if the modern time was like 2500, it must have been like 2000 or 1900 or something like that.
Yes.
I think.
So where that all fits into play, like this is why I say, right? This is something that's covered over multiple generations. Being like, oh, King Lung to Belagar. I don't know how many lineages of kings that would be.
True, and dwarves do live a hell of a long time.
They do,
like
right?
up to 1,000 that time. So yeah, it makes sense.
It could have been like 10 to 15 generations for all I know. And that's assuming that, like, they all die of old age. Because half of them probably died in battle trying to retake the stronghold.
True, yeah.
It's all messy with the dwarfs when it comes to timing. Also, you gotta bring in the aspect that I think Skaven and Greenskins live significantly shorter lives.
Well, yeah, they do. I think like 20 years old for a Skaven is like considered ancient to them.
It is, yes. Like 8 years old, and I know that Queek starts dealing with aches and pains of old age.
Yeah.
And even for goblins, like I know Skarsnik, when he gets older, starts to, whimper and complain about aches and pains as well in his knees.
Oh, really? I thought greenskins do not die of old age, but I could be wrong.
They don't die of old age, I don't think, but I know that, orcs are specifically bigger and bigger, right? But Skarsnik at one point in the book, it starts to talk about his like aches and pains in the Horned Rat book, but maybe that was a creative licensing thing. It's end time, so let's not think too much about that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that probably explains it there.
Yeah, right. Point being is that it's really hard for me to decipher, but the inciting incident was thousands of years in the past with the War of Vengeance, right? And that was basically a thing where it's like things are going from rough to absolute dog shit.
Okay. I guess another question I have is like, obviously the dwarves get dogged on, and of course the main players being Greenskins and Skaven. Is there anybody else that really like knows about this, that thought about coming in for a quick second, or at least try to help out? Like, for example, in the Empire of Man, do like the humans know about KARAK 8 Peaks, or do the dwarves try to hide it as a great shame, kind of like how the High Elves did with their Civil War?
I would assume it would probably be the latter. I don't know 100%. Yeah, I imagine it being a thing being like, well, this is our... And think of a dwarf, right? This is our fight. This is our ancestral home. We're going to retake it back with our people and our forces. And
well, I guess if you ask a dwarf that, they will not lie to you, but they'll be like, okay, well, you stay out of it. This is my job, damn it, not yours.
Exactly.
And like the High Elves who just completely hate it and be like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know why this is happening, even though they clearly knew why the caravans were being attacked.
Not to mention at that point, it becomes a thing of, at that point, we have to start paying back the humans with either gold or debts to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it would not be to their, like, they would probably hate that part. And also being like, the shame of having to work with Umgi to retake our ancestral home.
Probably, yeah. I'm assuming the Chaos Dwarves not really know about this because they got their own shit to deal with in the Blasted Lands.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, I mean, humans are dealing with their own shit in the Empire every day with chaos and beastmen and their own politics, so who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm also surprised, like, aside from this game, and there's no other Chaos Force to try to take advantage of this, but KARAK 8 Peaks is pretty far down south compared to the north.
It was more a thing of, I mean, again, the upper ground was pretty much ruled by the orcs because it was in the Badlands.
Yeah.
Or, Badland adjacent. And the Skaven just dug up from the darkest pits where, like, the dwarves wouldn't even think to look. It was, well beyond the subterranean underway of the dwarves.
Yeah, that's true.
It just sucked on all accounts. Like, it was literally this thing being like, there's an enemy that we, we're not expecting to come, and then there's an enemy we didn't even know existed coming up at us.
Yeah. And also another thing I know with this whole like Goblin Wars, or at least the collapse of the Karazhan Corps, we can call this time period here.
Yeah.
Like, aside from KARAK 8 Peaks probably being like the greatest loss of the Dwarven realm, I know that another great one was also, I forget the name of what it was, but like currently Black Crag being another tremendous loss that they experienced during this time.
Yes, yeah, that was another big one. That's which gets taken by a greenskin by the name of, oh shit, what's his name?
Gorfang Rotgut.
Gorfang Rotgut, thank you. Yeah, pretty much the king of the orcs.
Mm-hmm.
or
I mean,
self-proclaimed king of the orcs.
Grimgor would like to talk with him, and so would Gorbad, but that's a whole other thing.
Well, okay, listen. Self-proclaimed king of the orcs, and pretty much every other orc that is just not Grimgor and not just looking to kill everything will agree with them.
I mean, Gorfang is a bit smarter, that is true.
He's a bit smarter, and he actually cares about keeping his territory, air quotes. His kingdom, air quotes.
Yeah.
Whereas Grimgor could probably care less.
Yeah, I mean, Grimgor doesn't really want Empire. He just wants to fight and burn shit.
Remember, he left the midway into the battle with Hell Pit, so that tells you everything you need to know.
Well, it's because they ran out of shit to throw at me. It's like, okay, job's done. I'm out.
Yep, mid-fight, still just leaves. And what was I going to say? There's another point one other thing I don't entirely understand. Again, this is just a weird timing of things. Is apparently the Queek got his weapon Dwarf Gouger in the battle with the Goblin Wars. That was where he discovered it and was like, this is mine now. So I don't really know when the Goblin Wars took place in relation to, like, how, because the Goblin Wars is a Skaven versus the Greenskins, and then the Dwarfs retook their stronghold.
Mm-hmm.
So it's somewhere within like a 2-year gap, or it would have to be within like a 4-year gap that all of that happened.
Yeah, or maybe we could say that the Goblin Wars started before Queek was born, and maybe Queek was just like such a humongous contender that's when things really amped up, along with like Skarsnik taking power too.
Maybe, yes. And also, one thing I do need to point out real quick, Skarsnik and Queek have a particular rivalry, actually, that they hate each other. They really, really hate each other.
I mean, it makes sense. You have probably like the smartest goblin or smartest greenskin to ever exist, really fighting against pretty much the brick wall of all rats, being such a rare commodity. It's like, what the fuck are you?
Yes, and because Skarsnik's whole thing was brutal cunning and using ambush tactics, it really did become a thing that, well, Queek noticed this, and there's a great statement in the Horned Rat book where he says he killed dwarfs for the fun of it, but he claimed that his rivalry with Skarsnik was personal.
Damn. Okay. Well, you know that if that's the case, then Skarsnik must have really pissed Queek off somehow.
Yeah, somehow the amount of losses to Clan Moors, which, like, it's kind of weird that Queek, I guess that's how badly Clan Moors were taking casualties and losses that even Queek noticed and was like, fuck this guy. I hate him.
Well, again, and I'm sure we'll discuss more with Queek's stuff. Like, I'm sure you get the details. But one thing that I really liked about Queek is that he's so unscaven that some of his bullshit, like, stupid-headed tactics, air quotes tactics, actually works so well because no one would think how stupid or simple-minded that rat could be.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, like, so tunnel vision straightforward that no one would be thinking, like, wait, I didn't really even think you'd be that stupid to try that out. I wasn't prepared for that.
You used the word tunnel vision there, and I really appreciate that because we're going to cover that on his own episode. Don't worry.
I'm sure, yeah. Well, no, I remember like Queek Headtaker is probably like the most like focused Skaven and not being so scatterbrained about everything around him.
Yes, but he's also very black and white.
Oh yeah, like he is the there is very low nuance with that guy there. He's not like Thanquol.
Yes, exactly. He's reverse Thanquol. Which is probably why I love reading about him so much. So, that's really everything I have to cover. I'm glad you had those questions, actually, because that was a good point to cover. But again, it comes down to timeline of Warhammer is weird and janky.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, after all, like during summer, we had fucking Grom Brindle come by as some spectral ghost or whatever.
Oh, fuck the Sigmar. Yeah, the Sigmar thing. Yeah. That was... I'm not going to think about that too much. That was fucking weird. Anyways.
Well, hey, the War of Vengeance happened way before Sigmar, before humanity even developed.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't know when, like, Grombrindle becomes a rival to Malekith either. Or when he just starts, like, stalking Malekith and, like, just, like, waiting on his window porch.
Well, I thought Grombrindle became the thing when Malekith, like, started killing dwarves and betraying the oath that they told him on his deathbed.
It was, yes. But the thing was that Grombrindle shows up for the dwarves at their most dour timing when he's needed most.
I guess there was too many for one spectral ghost or whatever ancestral guardian to take care of during that time.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's just this weird thing where it's like, oh, the legendary rivalry between Malekith and Grombrindle. I'm like, the guy who just shows up? Okay, whatever.
Oh god, can you imagine like if Grumbiddle actually came by to help out Beligar, and it was like, "Don't worry, I come here to save you. I help all dwarves in their hour of need." It's like, where the fuck were you from my dad?
I just really like like, I need to make this a meme or even a t-shirt would be great. Of, you know, the Undertaker AJ Styles meme?
Kind of. Not too much, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Just the thing of like AJ Styles smiling and Undertaker standing behind him and just
Oh,
being
that
like,
one.
replace that
Yeah,
with Grombrindle and Malekith being like, when you just defeated Valkia and Scarbrand, but the real final boss is waiting for you.
yeah. No, now I know which one you're talking about. Now I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, that's so stupid. I love it. Again, like Malekith, the power scaling is weird. Warhammer power scaling is weird. But point is, with
Yeah, that's
the
true.
KARAK 8 peaks, we basically just went back to ground zero, and we have three main dudes who are the self-proclaimed king of the KARAK 8 peaks, and is
You could
ongoing.
say it's like. I mean, you could say it's like a period of three kingdoms. Eh? Eh?
All right, well, thank you all so much for listening to this.
I'll walk myself out.
I'll escort you out. Who comes off screen? Oh God. All right. Well, I know I've asked this question. I'm getting deja vu, but any more questions for me, sir?
No, I think I've asked enough for you for today.
All right. Like I said, this will get more coverage in the future. I'm looking forward to covering this. I'm excited. Next time, we'll probably cover Skarsnik, and then after that, we're going to do Queek. And maybe towards the end, I'll kind of cover the end times. It doesn't.
Eh,
Maybe not. Maybe
we'll
we'll
see.
just leave the ending of the 8 peaks on its own. It's not really worth the coverage if I'm being
Maybe on
honest.
the finale or whatever. But I am generally excited for Skarsnik and especially Queek Head Takers. Like I don't remember too much about Skarsnik stories, but the ones I do remember regarding Heat are pretty awesome.
They are. They're good fun. I would heavily recommend the books. All right. Well, in that case, I'll take us home. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please do consider becoming a subscriber if you're not already. Leave a comment. I love seeing them. Consider leaving a like. It all helps the channel. And give us any recommendations in the future. Let me know if there's anything I missed that I can cover in the future. And until then, we will see you all next time. Thanks so much and take care.